The forest became a frantic blur of green and brown. Branches, like angry fingers, whipped across my face, leaving stinging red lines. Sharp thorns tore at my hands as I pushed through the undergrowth, and my shins screamed in protest as they cracked against hidden logs. But I couldn't slow down. I wouldn't slow down. Behind me, the nightmare symphony played on. The heavy thump of the creature's massive feet hitting the earth. The violent crash as it pulverized anything in its path. And the relentless click, click, click of its talons striking stone. Over it all was that wet, chittering sound, a constant, gleeful commentary on the hunt. But then, the sounds began to shift. A thump from my left. I instinctively veered right. A crash directly ahead. I scrambled in a new direction. The click-click echoed behind me again. My heart hammered against my ribs. This wasn't just a chase. It was strategic. It was herding me, controlling my every move, driving me like a lost sheep toward some unknown terrible destination. I burst through a thicket, and my boot came down on something that gave way with a sickening crunch. I stumbled, looked down, and my blood ran cold. It was a human rib cage, ancient and draped in moss. Deep, parallel gouges scored the bones. 5 lines, evenly spaced, claw marks. The forest floor, I now realized, was a graveyard. It was littered with bones. Dozens of skeletons, all in various states of decay. Some were so old they were barely recognizable as human. Others still had scraps of modern cloth clinging to them. Against a tree, a faded backpack lay crumpled, its frame bent and twisted into an unnatural shape. A patch on it read, "Slovenian Archaeological Society, 1987. The horrifying truth crashed down on me. I wasn't the first scholar to find this place. I was just the latest meal on the menu. How many archaeologists, how many explorers had ignored the warnings? Near my foot, a skull grinned up at me, its teeth disturbingly modern, fillings clearly visible. This person died maybe 10, 15 years ago. The skull was split cleanly down the middle. A branch snapped behind me. I spun around, my breath catching in my throat. The creature stood just 20 feet away, perfectly still. It was half hidden behind a massive oak tree, its head craned around the trunk at an impossible 90-degree angle. Its 2 burning red eyes were fixed on me. Unblinking. Just watching. My flashlight flickered. Oh no. No, no, no! The batteries were dying. The creature tilted its head the other way, a gesture of cold curiosity. The light from my flashlight sputtered once, twice, and then died completely, plunging me into a terrifying darkness broken only by those 2 malevolent red stars. And then, the stars began to glide toward me, not running, gliding, smooth, inevitable. The game was over. The creature had stopped playing. Now it was time to feed. In the thin, pale moonlight, I caught a horrifying glimpse. The creature's mouth was open, its jaw unhinged like a serpent's, revealing rows of backward curving teeth that glistened wetly. I could see straight down its pulsing throat, see the muscles contracting as it prepared to swallow me whole. Acting on pure instinct, I dove sideways into a dense wall of brambles. Thorns ripped through my jacket, my shirt, my skin. Hot blood streamed down my arms, but I didn't care. I crawled on my belly through the thorns like a soldier through barbed wire, my pack snagging on every branch. Behind me, the creature slammed into the oak tree with enough force to crack the massive trunk. Wood splintered everywhere. A shriek of pure, unadulterated frustration ripped through the night. The sound of a predator denied its prize. Then it started tearing through the brambles, not crawling, ripping. Its acid-laced talons sheared through the vegetation like a chainsaw through saplings. The sound of tearing wood and snapping branches grew closer, impossibly close. My outstretched hand suddenly came down on empty air. I was at an edge. I rolled out of the thorny prison and found myself on the lip of a ravine. A black chasm dropped away into sheer nothingness. Far, far below, I could hear the faint sound of rushing water. Spanning the 30-foot gap was a single ancient log, glistening with moss and slick with rot. It was maybe 2 feet wide. Behind me, the brambles exploded outward. The creature burst through, its dark body covered in scratches that wept black ichor. Thorns protruded from its skin, but it didn't seem to notice or care. It saw me. It saw the log. And its eyes brightened, the red glow intensifying with a predatory glee. In that moment, I understood. It knew I had no choice. It had driven me here. This was the grand finale, and it was going to enjoy watching me try to cross. The log was just 2 feet wide, slick with decay. Below me, the ravine dropped 60 feet to a river studded with jagged, waiting rocks. The creature took one slow, deliberate step toward me. Then another. It wasn't rushing. It had all the time in the world. My boot slipped the moment I stepped onto the log. I dropped to my hands and knees, straddling the rotting wood. Splinters drove deep into my palms. The log groaned ominously beneath my weight, sagging in the middle. I began to crawl, a desperate, clumsy shuffle. Behind me, the creature's talons clicked on the stone as it reached the edge of the chasm. 10 feet across. 15. The wood beneath my left hand crumbled into rotten pulp. I lurched sideways, my legs swinging out over the abyss. I froze, gasping for air, my heart trying to beat its way out of my chest. And then I heard it. A wet, chittering sound. It was laughing. I dared to look back. The creature stood at the edge, its head tilted, watching me with pure, sadistic amusement. Then, it placed one massive, taloned hand on the log. The ancient wood groaned in protest. I scrambled forward, no longer caring about balance, just desperate to reach the other side. 20 feet. 25. So close. The creature stepped onto the log behind me. Its immense weight made the entire structure sag violently. A crack appeared in the wood, spiderwebbing outward from under its foot. The far edge was just 10 feet away. The creature took another step. The log cracked with the sound of a gunshot. Thank you for joining me on this terrifying journey. If you enjoyed this story and want to hear what happens next, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. We have plenty more chilling tales coming your way. Stay safe out there and see you in the next video. I lunged forward, my hands grasping for anything at all. My fingers found dirt, solid ground, and I clung to it with every ounce of strength I had left. But it was too late. The log beneath me gave way, and my legs swung out into the abyss. My body slammed hard against the rock face, and an explosion of pain erupted through my ribs. I heard the sickening crack of bone. White-hot agony seared through me. My fingers dug deeper into the earth, my shoulders screamed in protest, and my legs dangled over 60 feet of pure, empty air. Down below, the log I'd been standing on just seconds ago hit the rocks with a splintering crash that echoed up the chasm. I just hung there, each breath sending daggers through my shattered ribs. Then I heard it. A sound that shouldn't have been possible. The click of talons. On my side of the chasm. No, it couldn't be. I watched the log fall. I heard it shatter into 1,000 pieces. There was no way across. With a surge of adrenaline and sheer terror, I hauled myself up, every movement an exercise in pure agony. I looked back across the 30-foot gap, and there it was. The creature stood on the far side, its eyes burning into me like hot coals. It crouched down, its unnaturally long legs coiling beneath its body like powerful springs. A horrifying thought hit me. It's going to jump. It can't. That's impossible. 30 feet? Nothing jumps 30 feet. That's physically impossible. Then it launched. It just unfolded in midair, a nightmare of twisted joints and impossible angles. Its arms and legs spread wide, its body elongating in a way that defied all logic. For a single, terrifying moment, it hung there, suspended against the pale light of the moon. Then it came down on my side with a ground-shaking thud. Its talons gouged 6-inch furrows into the earth where it landed. It had cleared 30 feet like it was a crack in the pavement. Like the laws of physics were merely a suggestion it chose to ignore. In that moment, any sliver of hope I had left died, strangled in my throat. The creature rose slowly, deliberately, to its full 9-foot height. It shook itself, and I could hear the creak of its joints, the wet, sliding sound of muscle over bone. And then, it began to walk toward me. It wasn't rushing. It was savoring the moment. It knew the prey was broken. Ribs cracked, utterly exhausted, bleeding. The hunt was over. Now came the eating. I ran. My body was shutting down. My lungs felt raw, my legs were cramping, and every single breath sent knives of pain through my broken ribs. But the animal part of my brain, the part that only cares about survival, didn't care about the pain. I stumbled through the dark forest, barely able to see, my hands outstretched to ward off trees I couldn't even make out. Behind me, I could hear it following at a leisurely pace. It didn't need to rush. It could track me by the scent of my fear, by the trail of my blood. It could hear my ragged breathing and the sound of my clumsy, crashing footfalls. The forest began to thin, and I burst into a small clearing, my relief lasting only a fraction of a second before I knew I'd made a fatal mistake. It was a dead end. The clearing was ringed on 3 sides by dense, thorny brambles, and on the 4th by a steep, sheer rock face. There was no way out. I was trapped. I spun around, my eyes darting everywhere, looking for any gap, any escape. Nothing. My boot kicked something metallic, half buried in the leaf litter. I looked down. It was a flare gun. And next to it, a skeleton, clad in the rotted remains of a park ranger's uniform. The skull was caved in, crushed, as if it had been squeezed in a massive, powerful grip. The ranger's arm bones were still positioned as if he had been reaching for the flare gun. He had died trying to use it. It hadn't saved him. Behind me, the sound of talons stopped. I turned slowly, my hand shaking so badly I could barely pick up the flare gun. The creature stood at the entrance to the clearing, a monstrous silhouette against the moonlight. It had stopped pursuing me. It knew. Trapped prey doesn't need to be chased. It took one slow step into the clearing, then another. It was strolling now like a man admiring flowers in a garden before picking one. With numb, fumbling fingers, I checked the flare gun. 1 flare. I had 1 shot. The creature saw the gun in my hand and paused. Its head tilted, and I saw a flicker of recognition in those burning eyes. Then it did something that stopped my heart cold. It spoke, out loud. Its voice was a wet, clicking horror, a rasp of words formed by a throat full of broken glass. The sounds themselves hurt to hear, shapes a human mouth was never meant to make. But the language, God's help me, the language was English. Broken, fragmented. Words it had collected from decades of victims. Light, stick, it rasped, each word accompanied by the clicking of its teeth. Used, before. It took another step closer. Ranger man, used, light stick, 30 winter, ago. 30 years. That skeleton. That poor park ranger had been lying here for 30 years. Burned, eyes. The creature flexed its talons, and in the moonlight I saw thick puckered scars on its chest, old burn marks, long since healed. Hurt. Bad. Another step. Its mouth split wide in that terrible, lipless smile. Doesn't stop, only delays. It remembered. It remembered every weapon ever used against it, every attempt at defense, every single failure. The flare gun had hurt it before, but it hadn't stopped it, and it wasn't afraid. Soft skin dies, screaming, or quiet. Its head tilted the other way, considering me. Screaming. Better. Screaming. More. Fun. It was giving me a choice. A sick, twisted choice. Fight and die in agony. Or surrender and die quickly. But either way, I died. My hand shook so badly I could barely keep my grip on the gun. My rational mind was screaming at me that this was hopeless. One flare wasn't going to stop this thing. Nothing would. I was already dead. But that primal animal part of my brain had a different opinion. Dead certain is worse than dead trying. The creature seemed to sense my decision. Its eyes brightened with a sick anticipation. It wanted me to fight. It wanted to see that last spark of hope turn to despair when the flare inevitably failed. It had lived for 1,000 years, and in that time it had learned to savor not just the meat, but the moment. The psychological feast before the physical one. Soft skin, tries, yes, it chittered, a sound like grinding stones. Good, good, try. And then it charged. 9 feet of muscle and hunger and ancient malevolence launched itself across the clearing, moving with the horrifying, impossible speed of a hunting cat. Its talons were extended, each one dripping a viscous acid that hissed as it hit the ground. Its mouth gaped wide, its jaw unhinged, revealing rows of backward-facing teeth designed to grip and tear. I pulled the trigger.